What is something that happens at casinos that is hidden from the public? You won't find clocks on the walls, dealers are generally forbidden from wearing watches, and the vast majority of casinos do not have windows to the outside. The few you can maybe from the floor are usually heavily tinted, and the lighting inside generally stays the same 24/7. This is because they limit your ability to tell time as much as possible, to the extent they can control, so that you're more likely to lose track and stay longer. Tuesday longer you play the better the odds of losing, because the odds are always in the house's favor. Any game that requires some version of commission for a wager, banker and back, means that the odds are either even or ever so slightly in favor of that wager, so they add a commission to even it back out. No game added to the floor is random. All the odds are figured out way before it's ever even considered being offered from sale. The bonus sounds on slot machines are bullshit. The outcome is determined, and no matter what you do in that bonus, you'll get the amount the machine has determined for that jackpot. Slot machines are the adult equivalent of those infant toys that light up and make sounds when played with some added psychology. Bet, 100. Spin. You won 60. No dumbass, you lost 40 and got to watch some lights and listen to some sounds. I can almost always tell a high roller slots player based on their decision to have taxes withheld from large jackpots. The big fish know they'll likely break even over the course of a year at best and won't owe anything. Casinos are regulated like banks, and report financial transactions just like banks. Don't want to give an ID for that $10,000 in chips you're trying to cash? You'll be refused. Multiple transactions that add up to $10,000? ID, please. Try to beat the system by structuring, having a friend cash out, etc. Gonna report you to the government for possible money laundering activity. We can see every slot machine screen and table game on camera 24/7. You break something, like punching the screen, which is more common than you think, we'll ID you and you'll get a bill. Also probably evicted. If you like to play slot machines, never play penny slots. Those are the machines that make the casinos their most money. Play quarter or dollar machines, you spend just as much or less each spin, and they tend to have better payouts. But your brain says penny slots are cheaper, but they have machines that you can hit $20 a spin and higher. Where I used to work, penny machines had a 14% hold, while quarter and dollar machines had an 8% hold. The hold is how much the machine will win over the lifetime of the machine. The higher the hold, the more you are likely not to win. Also, a machine is never due. They use random number generators that act the moment you hit the spin button or pull the arm. The machine already knows if you have won or not, and everything you see in front of you is for your entertainment. Always use your player's card. Yes, they track your play and try to lure you back based on how you play, but it's also how they determine if they give you things. Every casino has its own scent. They want you to associate that smell with the casino subconsciously. It's like going to the movies and you smell the popcorn and your brain is ready for the experience. My cousin works at a casino, and depending on what table he is working, requires a uniform/vest/cumber/tie/clip change. There is a large employee room with hundreds of lockers. He shares his with two others that usually work different shifts/areas than him. In the locker are 6 hooks, 2 for each person, a top cubby with 3 sections, for water bottles, etc., a lower section with 3 sections, for boots/change shoes, and above the footwear section a 3-section mini locker that you bring your own lock, where you put your wallet, valuables, etc., that you can't have on your person when you are on the floor. The lockers are large enough to keep your section close if you need to swap during your shift. He only very rarely runs into a locker buddy, unless they picked up an extra shift, or if there is a special event. He is super short and his locker mates are a very tall man and an average height woman. He thinks locker mates are chosen very specifically to avoid thefts, minimal contact, etc., though he can't prove that. I only have the one experience that likely doesn't qualify because I still have no idea what was happening or why. I was collecting water samples at a major casino/hotel for Legionella testing, a big deal for any hospitality-type industry. They were diligent and had consistently good results, just FYI. We were down on the floor with the villas. We'd already passed a couple levels of security, the presidential suite was empty, we were given a key and took our time, but when we were halfway down a hallway for the villas, two very large men in suits, I'm a fairly well-built man, but I understood my place at that moment, came up and angrily asked for verification and then radioed in our credentials. They very bluntly told hotel security that they were meant to have complete privacy. Once we were cleared, they told us to mind our business and move on quickly. A third, very angry, albeit very well-dressed giant of a man walked out of a room as we walked by. What I saw was a giant U-shaped sectional sofa with a couple dozen or more elderly men in suits. Behind each man was a beautiful, very scantily dressed, much younger woman. They all stared blankly at me and my coworker as we passed. We were told to get the fuck out of there in a way that we, with puckered buttholes, listened to. Bizarre experience, but I thought it basically confirmed what I thought about Vegas. I worked at a racetrack/casino for a summer, and what surprised me the most was how intense the hiring and training process was. I knew there would be a background check and drug test, but I also had to get certified by my state's Racing and Games Commission. It wasn't a difficult process, but it took forever, and they took my fingerprints, which I thought was weird. It was basically like I was getting security clearance. And everyone who worked there had to do it, even if they were working at the adjoining hotel and never stepped foot into the actual casino. Once I got hired, I had to watch a bunch of orientation videos that were required by the state or federal government. One was about recognizing the signs of gambling addiction and when to intervene with guests who showed these signs. Like how bartenders have to cut people off. It was pretty obvious that they only showed that video because they had to and they didn't want us to cut off their best customers. And then there was a PowerPoint and quiz mandated by a federal agency, either the FBI, IRS, or SEC, I can't remember, about fraud and tax evasion. Basically, if someone won over a certain amount, I think $5,000, in one day they had to report their winnings to the IRS before they could leave with their money. And there were ways that people tried to game the system to get out of paying taxes. Like they would cash out just under the threshold, so if the $5,000 number was correct, they would cash out $4,999 and wait to collect more until the next day. So either they do a transaction before midnight and another after, or they take their chips home to bring back later. Or they could get other people to collect money for them. So casino staff was supposed to be on the lookout for any sort of shady behavior that could be tax avoidance. And if you had suspicions, but no proof, they had a computer program for you to input profiles with any details you could gather, name, physical description, amount won, so security could keep an eye out. I never had to do this since I worked at the racetrack and not the actual casino, but it was crazy to me that the dealers and other casino employees had to worry about all that on top of their regular job duties. The pay was pretty good, but not enough for investigating financial crimes IMO. Well, maybe not hidden exactly? I learned the hard way: always keep an eye on everything of yours while you're in the casino or resort. People are just cruising around waiting for any chance to snag something regardless of how trivial it is. My GF and I sat down at some slots next to each other, at a casino on the state line. I STA my sunglasses on the machine when I suddenly heard what sounded like dropped change or a cup of change falling over. I looked down and around from the direction it came, and when I looked back at the machine my sunglasses were gone. I'd been distracted and they just swiped them. What really blew my mind, and whoever the good Samaritan was that did, I'm so thankful for. My GF literally dropped her keys without realizing it on a key fob, and we went looking for them and nowhere to be found, and it was like, oh fuck, we're stranged. Without the car keys, no joke, we went to the main desk and asked if they had a lost and found type thing, and some good person had turned in her keys. Wow.